Well, welcome back into the Mid-Norfolk garden. We're going to show you a full garden tour in autumn. A couple of weeks we've got of really nice potential weather still in the UK. It can be very different in October and beginning of November some years, but this year we're getting some absolutely beautiful blue skies and not too many frosts yet. We've had one or two little ground frosts, but it's left a lot of this garden still looking very good, and there's some patches or bursts of colour which we're going to show and share with you today as we do a full garden tour around this, what is extending almost to 2 acres of mature country garden here in Norfolk. So join me now and do stick around, because at the end we've got a real surprise burst of colour to show you, something that we only can film for about a week each year, but it's absolutely at its best now. So let's get started and show you some of the bursts of colour we've got in this garden still flowering. Oh, these little beauties are Alstroemeria, and in sheltered spots they can continue to flower right the way up until the first frosts. We've got some seed heads from stems. These can actually be pulled off the base now quite easily, but we've also got plenty of young shoots coming up, still budding up, and as long as we don't get heavy or hard frosts, these should continue to give us this beautiful striated lily-like flower right the way through into early November. And nerines are a real feature of the autumn garden here in Norfolk, and we've got a couple of different varieties, just slight different shades in them. We've also got a few young, very pale, creamy, almost white versions, but these are the classic. One that we've grown here for many years now, and we've split and moved around the garden, and we'll take you around to the front of the house and show you just how well these have got established. But this little patch is just flowering here at the end of the what used to be the old vegetable garden is now the cutting garden in front of the old barn. Don't know whether this is going to film particularly well with the sun just streaming over the adjacent barns here this morning. Now, this is quite a special rowan. The main rowans that we've seeded themselves around this garden have been stripped a couple of weeks back by the birds, but this little ruby pink variety, I'm not sure what the variety is called, but it fruits alternate years and has this lovely display of berries that are held quite late in the season. They must be quite sour because the wildlife don't particularly enjoy them here, so we get to enjoy them that little bit longer. This tree's been thugged in recent years by a Paul's Himalayan musk, which is on the southern and eastern aspect of it. Really was a mistake planting it in such a small tree, really. The Himalayan musk rose is a real thorny thug, and now poses a almost impossible problem to cut out because the rowan isn't large enough to support ladders for us to get up there. And if anybody's grown Paul's Himalayan musk, you know just what a thorny, intertwined devil it can be when you do come to prune it. So the rowan's just going to have to struggle on for another couple of years. This little aster's been spread all around this garden, and even in this what is now a heavily shaded area under quite an established and getting away copper beech, that one, and a normal beech just behind me. Used to be a massive great oak tree which was felled about 4 or 5 years ago. It was in the end stages of dieback and dropping bits onto the footpath that runs just behind this garden, so had become a little bit dangerous, and we decided to take that out, although it would have probably kept on dying for another 100 years or so. Couldn't take the risk of it dropping substantial bits that are coming down in storms on walkers, and it is allowing these 2 beeches to really become established. This is the old little orchard just behind what was the old barn and to the side of the old vegetable garden. 2 young Bramley seedling apple trees. I was looking back at pictures we took here around 10 years ago when these really were just thrips being planted out, with 2 quite mature apple trees, the last of which is just dying out. We do have a problem in this area with honey fungus, which is not the best thing to have running around here, but you can see the damage it's done to that one, and I think that's probably going to be lost over the next couple of years. These sunflowers have done spectacularly well, interplanted between the new border of iris that was put in at the end of spring. They were tiny little plants, we really didn't think they were going to get going, but they've given us a fantastic display here, and we're probably going to leave them for the first part of winter just as architectural display pieces really. I think they'll catch the frosts really well, but also the seed heads will feed the wild birds really well over the first part of winter. If they start looking scruffy, we may just take the seed heads down and put those on the bird table. But it forms a nice screen on this bit of the garden, and behind it we've got these young fig trees. I'm trying to put a collection together of potted figs of different varieties after I lost my large established mature fig tree to the building work last year to make way for the new atrium. So we'll see how those come on, but it's not looking bad for this time of year. Let's make our way round into the main body of the garden now. The late Salanguea flowering daisies in this border have really been fantastic this year. It's the first year they've not suffered from drought earlier in the season, and they're just coming to the end of their flowering period now. So you can see just the last of the blooms still attracting the insects. They've been a fantastic display. More aster here planted in and around these borders. A flowering currant coming to the end of its season, but just look at the bud formation on here. Beautiful red, healthy looking buds. That should be fantastic next year, I think. Again, that's been helped by the tree above being pruned. The new summer house, for years now I've been filming in this garden saying we are going to get around to repairing or replacing the summer house, and we have actually done that now. Company in Norfolk took away the old one, replicated it, copied every aspect, and have built this fantastic rotating summer house for us. It's been beautiful to use, and it's given us an additional aspect on the garden. Just let me pan around and show you the back of the house. More asters to the side of the old pool shed. Really mature ones here, been in for 5 or 6 years. Tend to split them quite often because they do tend to die out from the base, but flowering really beautifully. And above them, the most enormous, well-established Kifsgate. I think it's Kifsgate improved actually, but the hips on this at this time of year, and if the birds don't strip it right the way through November and December, are absolutely spectacular. Of the 2 roses we grow here, the big mature early flowering Kifsgate and Rambling Rector, Kifsgate wins every time when it comes to the hip formation. Here's a close-up of the arch we've just pulled down to grow over the door into the old shed where we keep garden equipment and the treatments for the hot tub. And just behind that, this is what we showed you earlier, but this little patch, because it's shaded at the base by this hot tub that sits in front of them, it's flowering much later, and absolutely beautiful splash of bright buttercup yellow in front of the mature roses behind it. We grow a lot of verbena here, and we have a lot of verbena seedlings. As you can see, it does, if you give it a gravel bed, seed out very, very prolifically, and these have really flowered beautifully, but they are too close together, which is why I think they've flopped as they have, but they're still producing a lovely purple hazy display in the end of this border, really giving us some good colour. Now I've made my way around onto the rear of the cottage, which forms really almost like a west wing of the house, to show you this rose, which is one we've been looking to grow here for years and struggled to find. It's called Queen of Sweden. We did have it in the Ludham cottage for years, and it was a really spectacular rose. Late flowering, floribunda, not heavily scented, but just look at the form of these flowers. Absolutely gorgeous. Makes a fantastic cut flower, although it doesn't last long in a vase, but it's got a self-supporting, very healthy, upright habit, which makes it one of our favourite roses. And we've managed to get mail order one. Couldn't find this in any of the garden centres, and we've been looking continuously, but it's a David Austin variety, and it is available either as a bare rooted or pot grown specimen. This came mail order for my wife's birthday and is planted out here in what we hope is going to be quite a prominent position to enjoy for many years to come. Should do very well. Behind it, again, this rose has been absolutely fantastic this year. flowered from around late May right the way through to now end of October, and still has plenty of bud coming on it to suggest that it may go flowering right the way through to Christmas if the weather is mild. Beautiful, much more open than Queen of Sweden, as you can see, and the outer petals are almost speckled, as if they've been splattered with somebody painting them in that lovely deep pink, and then the powder puff fading to white pink. This is called Special Child. It's quite widely available, I think, but again, beautiful, easy to grow, healthy. It's got a little bit of black spot, but that doesn't seem to have knocked it back at all, and it's got a nice habit. I think we've got 2 or 3 of them in this position, all of which have done incredibly well. Just look at that. Highly recommend that one. Little white nerine. These have really struggled in here. We spent a huge amount of money buying these as pot grown specimens a few years ago. Planted a whole row of them right the way along the front of this border, and they've just not liked the position at all. I don't think they're getting enough sun. I don't think they like the hardcore that they're planted into, and why would they? We knew we were taking a little bit of a punt with them. They may get going. I mean, the green's coming through on this quite well, so we'll see. But it would be nice to have some big areas of these to enjoy. The little pink ones that we spread along the front in a similar position, again, not liking it very much, so I think it is the aspect and ground rather than the plants themselves. Now this is Sedum Autumn Joy, which we've grown here in this aspect now for 2 years, and it's done very well. If you watch some of our older videos, you'll know that we had a row of it just on the back of the iris border, which again grew very well, and if anything was slightly more self-supporting than they are growing here, in which is better soil. And it has to be said with sedums, if they overgrow into a nutrient-rich or good soil, as it were, they do tend to get a bit leggy and then flop in the centre as this. So if that's going to be an issue for you, then grow them hard like this, growing through hardcore and gravel. You can see these have only been in since the beginning of this year. They haven't got the sun on them, so they're looking quite purple, but these are the same variety with a reddish tinge when they're in the light. But just look at the more upright, self-supporting habit. Much lower plants, probably around 6 inches lower, but they do hold the heads when they're grown harder, and that's one of the tricks to growing these things in different varieties or different positions in the garden for different effects. But for the sheer volume of flower that we're getting on in the healthy soil, they're looking very good, aren't they? And they should gradually brown off, but we'll still leave them growing there, as they'll hold their form upright right the way through winter and act as a good bed for a lot of insects in the base. We usually don't cut these back if they are looking good right the way until they're starting to grow again from the crowns. Just spotted this hollyhock still flowering in October. It really shouldn't be doing that, but sometimes they do, particularly if you've cut them back earlier in the season. The crown will put up a secondary shoot, usually much shorter than the full 6 to 8 foot spires of hollyhock you get in the main flowering, but nonetheless worth having that in the garden for a little burst of pink. But if you really want a reliable burst of pink in a border at this time of year, then these nerines shouldn't disappoint. Best grown as a monoculture rather than being crowded. You can see these ones struggling a little bit with the catmints just to the side, and quite often these will get overshadowed by things like that oxeye daisy you can just see in the foreground there, and there's some hollyhock in there as well, isn't there? Do far better where they've got a bit of open soil like this clump. Then you get this really good volume mass of flowers coming up from the bulbs at the base. That's how they really should be grown, and aren't they spectacular? Absolutely gorgeous at this time of year. Another reliable little burst of colour for us in this garden is this late flowering fuchsia. Hardy fuchsia. This is planted out as a herbaceous planting. It is in a sheltered position. Lovely little purple bracts in the centre, and stirrups coming out. Just gorgeous little flowers, very delicate. Plenty of them, and the seed heads themselves, when they do pollinate, just look at those, almost as colourful as the buds and flowers itself. These are grown in quite a sheltered position on the back of this southeasterly facing wall, with the conservatory wall just to the side. But what I'm walked around here to really show you on the far southern aspect of this garden is this smoke bush. It does this every year. Doesn't do it for long though, but this plant's been in here probably since the 1960s or 1970s. It's a slow growing shrub, small tree, and just look at the colour that you get with this thing. It puts most acers to shame, and as you get closer up it gets even more spectacular in part. Lovely striation on the leaves. Few of the smoky flower heads still in situ on there, but these do tend to blow around most of the year, and that's just catching the morning sunlight here in Norfolk and giving this absolute blast of bright orange, which will hopefully last another couple of weeks before dropping. So I hope you've enjoyed this garden tour, taking you around most of the highlights of this old Georgian farmhouse, wrapped around with its beautiful garden here in Norfolk. It's a fantastic and privileged place to live, we know. If you'd like to have a look around that house, then I'll pop a link over to our sister channel where my wife Kate's done a house tour for you. So if you'd like to have a look around, do join her for that. Thanks for watching.